Pues les comento que siempre que presentamos y que presento a alguien en 17, a veces me parece difícil decidir si hacer la presentación por vía vernácula o por vía formal. Me refiero a que la vía vernácula implica, pues, contar los detalles a veces muy luminosos de los motivos concretos y personales, las historias compartidas, las batallas comunes que prácticamente con todos los miembros de la comunidad de 17 tenemos. Y a veces esa historia vernácula pues es más iluminadora que la formal, que es la curricular, que es la universitaria, diríamos, que es la que todo el mundo conoce. En este caso voy a recurrir a las dos, porque Janice Misurell-Mitchell merece ser mucho más conocida en nuestro medio y en nuestro país de lo que hasta ahora ha sido, y en ese sentido es un gusto y un honor muy grande poderla presentar ante ustedes esta noche, y espero poner mi granito de arena para que ese mayor conocimiento pueda tener lugar. Voy a comenzar con la presentación de para Tom Mitchell, de tenerlo en este mismo espacio hace un año. Ustedes, varios, estuvieron aquí en aquel coloquio Las 3 eras de la imagen que coorganizamos con el Centro de la Imagen. En esa ocasión le dimos un doctorado honoris causa a Ariel Guzik, y desde hace ya algunos semestres y años con Ariel, y públicamente también hemos bromeado y disfrutado la referencia de que un concierto muy memorable para mí, que fue el concierto del Art Ensemble of Chicago, aquí en México, por ahí del año del caldo, la verdad no recuerdo ni qué año fue, yo era un adolescente. Fue un concierto memorable porque el Auditorio Nacional se llenó de una tal energía que al final del concierto los espectadores que estaban en el tercer piso se aventaban al segundo, y los del segundo al primero, y todo el mundo se aventaba hacia el frente del escenario, y más o menos en una zona equivalente a este pasillo terminamos todos más o menos hipnotizados aplaudiendo al Art Ensemble of Chicago, que había tocado durante más de 2 horas. Un escenario lleno de instrumentos musicales. Y claro, en un coloquio dedicado al free jazz, a la improvisación y a la franja de posibilidades que la improvisación nos permite como respuesta en tiempos atroces, verán que esa memoria que siempre permaneció de manera muy intensa en mí, pues cobra un significado retroactivamente. Yo compartí tiempo después esta memoria muy especial para mí con Ariel Guzik, camino a su doctorado honoris causa, y me dijo que Alejandro, su sonidista, con quien ha grabado gran parte de su trabajo, es precisamente quien hacía el sonido esa noche que yo recordaba. Entonces, siempre me pareció muy especial que esa concatenación entre el Art Ensemble of Chicago y Ariel, vía Alejandro y esta arte del sonido, pudiera, digamos, vincularlos en mí y también ahora en Ariel y en Alejandro. ¿Y cuál sería mi sorpresa? Que al tener el gran placer de conocer a Tom Mitchell en alguna cena durante ese coloquio de hace un año, pues le hablaba con la misma pasión que siempre de esta anécdota, a partir de Ariel y de esta relación. Y me dijo, pues fíjate que mi esposa, flautista, vocalista, artista del sonido, fue una de las primeras, quizá la primera mujer blanca que fue incorporada por el Art Ensemble of Chicago para tocar con ellos. Y eso tomó más o menos, me dice, 25 años. Chicago es de donde ella viene, entonces ven ahí una cercanía. Y eso, bueno, fue para mí incorporar una nueva pieza, un rompecabezas personal que ahora les comparto. Y fue en ese momento en que le dije a él, oye, pues es que mira, yo tengo esta idea sobre la relación entre improvisación, autoritarismo y el contraste que se puede establecer entre sus lógicas en relación con la ley. Si organizamos este coloquio, ¿vendrían ustedes a México nuevamente? Sí, claro, cuenta con ello. Entonces, bueno, se dieron unas condiciones extraordinarias para que esto pudiera tener lugar. Felizmente ellos dos están aquí, podrán escucharlo a él mañana, y ahora estoy presentando a Janice. Esta es la vía vernácula. Janice es compositora, flautista, artista vocal, conferencista y profesora de la School of the Art Institute de Chicago. Ha impartido clases y tenido presentaciones en Estados Unidos, en Europa, en Marruecos, en Israel, en Palestina, en India y en China. Se ha desempeñado como compositora destacada en el Art Chicago, Greensboro New Music Festival de la Universidad de Carolina del Norte, en la International Alliance for Women in Music Congress en Beijing, Voices of Dissident Series en el Bowling Green College of Musical Arts, en el Randspiele Festival en Berlín. Durante varios años fue codirectora artística e intérprete con el Cube Contemporary Chamber Ensemble. Su más reciente CD, Vanishing Points, Music for Solo, Duo, Quartet, fue elegido en 2013 por Peter Margazak de The Chicago Reader como una de las mejores 5 nuevas grabaciones de música. Esta grabación y su CD anterior, Uncommon Time, música para flauta, voz y percusión, se encuentra grabado bajo el sello Southport Records. Más de su música está disponible a través de MMC Recordings, Opus One Recordings, Capstone Records, Arizona University Recordings, y sus videos After the History, Scat Rap Counterpoint, Sermon of the Spider y otros están disponibles en su canal de YouTube, que pueden buscar ustedes en internet, lo mismo que su nutrida página web. Les pido que la reciban con un fuerte aplauso.
Thank you very much, Benjamin. And I also would like to thank the conference for inviting me and have a special thank you to Pablo Flores and his crew for providing wonderful sound and light for this performance. I've been using improvisation in composition almost my whole career, and sometimes there are pieces where they're highly formed from the improvisations. Other times I have places where I'm going to allow for improvisation. As some of you may know already, I employ a lot of extended techniques, which means some of the non-standard, non-orchestral flute sounds. And this may involve very strong attacks, playing and singing, harmonics, a lot of notes and sounds that are not really familiar. I thought I would start the program by presenting a piece which is kind of a musical story of improvisation, the story of Pan and Syrinx by Claude Debussy, the French composer who wrote the piece in 1913. The piece doesn't have a very strong, definite rhythm, and it seems to just flow very naturally and has a strong quality of just one motive developing from another. And so this would be an example of how we might think of improvisation. It also is a piece that employs a flute sound, which is very familiar. The next piece you see on the program is called Sub-Music and Song for Solo Flute. I wrote this in 1983, and it was done from very scant materials. It employs what we call a tone row, and that row is a series of all the chromatic tones put in a particular order, and this order is done in such a way that it fits into little groups of 4, 5, and 6, and I'll play these for you. Initially, I performed this piece by improvising just on those notes, and I wrote an ending for it that I felt I would be secure in playing no matter what happened in between. As time passed, I gradually extended the material, recorded it, and started notating it. So the finished piece is now completely notated, but it was derived completely from improvisation in 1982 and found its voice in 1983. The next piece was written for alto flute, and it's in memory of Ted Shen, who was an arts critic in Chicago who passed away in 2003. Ted was always very interested in connecting East and West, and so I felt it was appropriate to write a short memorial piece for him using sounds which would come from Asian flutes. And this is the kind of sound that I was exploring from the shakuhachi. So this piece takes a theme which is very simple and then develops it, but also adds some Western touches to it as well. And it's called Una voce perduta, a voice that is lost. The next series of pieces use poetry as their sources and also worked in such a way that I would record my voice speaking the poetry until I was really happy with the inflection that I was using and the rhythms and the pacing. And then I would have my musical materials, usually a note series, and write rhythms and shapes and contours that conformed to what I was doing vocally. So that was really a way where I felt that I was very in tune with the actual poem, and the recording was very helpful in my deciding how to shape the piece. Bluesman, Poet Woman initially was part of a larger piece called Profaning the Sacred, which was written for flute, alto flute and voice, and clarinet and bass clarinet, commissioned by the former bass clarinetist of the Houston Symphony, Dick Nunemaker. Because it's a kind of complicated piece to put together, I thought it would be good to have a portable version of it. And in doing so, I wrote a solo piece which uses some of the bass clarinet material as well as the flute material. So I'm going to speak the poem, which is written by the wonderful Chicago slam poet Reggie Gibson, now living in Boston, and then perform the piece with flute and voice. I is the blues is I. I is the seraph whose wings beat hatred, and the demon who smiles redemption. Holy, holy, song of generations sired by loins of war, the white sail blown by winds of profit, sailing on seas of black severed hands. I is the scream, I is the whine, I is the whisper, I is the blues. I is the singer, the blues callin' singer, poet woman, word bringer, blues callin' verb slinger. I is the blues is I. Soprano choir setting fire, that last bit of will your pain cannot kill, cheating death with the breath of survival. I is the singer, the blues callin' singer. I is the blues is I. Blues, blues, On is the surf, whose wings beat retreat. Redemption. Home. Sing the generations, sing the words of war. The bright sail blown by winds of trumpet, sailing on seas with black sword hands. Iris and scream, iris of wine, iris of whisper, iris of bliss. Is a singer, the blues golden singer, poet woman, word bringer, blues golden wordsmith. So turn the fire, setting fire, the blast through the wind, nothing can kill. To death with the breath of survival. The singer, the blast can sing. What is the blues? The blues is home. What is This piece is from Profaning the Sacred as well. I call it Profaning the Sacred 2, because it actually begins in a way that's similar to the larger piece. This text is based on excerpts of Howl, America and Footnote to America by the American poet Allen Ginsberg, who had a very prophetic style, a style that worked very well with Reggie Gibson's spoken word. And so I used two pieces as kind of beginning and end points of the larger piece. In Profaning the Sacred 2, Ginsberg is talking about the political situation in the United States. This is during the 1950s, and it also conforms to a lot of what's happening now. He's also talking about a kind of biblical evil, which is in the image of Moloch, the biblical god to whom children were sacrificed. And Ginsberg rails against Moloch in his poetry very beautifully. The piece also was created in the same way as Bluesman Poet Woman through my speaking the poem into a tape recorder many, many times until I felt that I had the kind of contours that I wanted. Also, this opens with the alto flute, but instead of using the shakuhachi feel to it, I'm using more as a second voice to my alto voice. So this is the poem, Excerpts of Howl by Allen Ginsberg. I saw the best minds of my generation destroyed by madness, starving, hysterical, naked, dragging themselves through Negro streets at dawn, looking for an angry fix. Angel-headed hipsters, burning for the ancient heavenly connection to the starry dynamo in the machinery of night. What sphinx of cement and aluminum bashed open their skulls and ate up their brains and imagination? Moloch, filth, ugliness. Children screaming under stairways, boys sobbing in armies, old men weeping in the parks. Moloch, nightmare of Moloch. Moloch the loveless, mental Moloch. Moloch, heavy judger of men. Prisons, sorrows, judgment, machinery, blood, money. Armies, tombs, banks, poverty. Visions, miracles, ecstasies, gone down the American river. America, I've given you all, and now I'm nothing. America, I can't stand my own mind. Holy, 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 holy. The world is holy, the soul is holy, the skin holy, the nose holy, the tongue and cock and hand and asshole holy. Moloch, nightmare of Moloch. mental Moloch. Moloch, charger of men. Thy sorrows should live. See the free. Money, armies, banks, poverty, visions, miracles, The Light That Burns, as you can see from the program, is another memorial piece, this time to our son, Gabriel Mitchell, who was a filmmaker, poet, and visual artist, and had a lot of favorite films that are fairly well known, one of which was Blade Runner. And in one of his own films, Gabriel included a clip from Blade Runner, which had a phrase that was the result of a conversation between Roy, who's a replicant, as some of you may know, and Terrell, who actually had been one of the foundational, quote, father figures of the replicants. And Roy is speaking to Terrell, and he wants more life, and he said, Terrell, why can't I have more life? Why do I have to die now? And Terrell said, well, Roy, you know you have lived a very full life, and the light that burns twice as bright burns half as long. And with that phrase, I decided that I would write a piece that used the words and then started disguising them in various kinds of sounds, and then started dealing with the imagery of light and of burning. This piece does have a section that has improvisation, and other parts of it also have little boxes around them which tell me that I should be improvising on the sounds or extending them or doing something a little bit more than what's on the actual page. In this piece also, you'll hear that it feels very atonal in the beginning, but there's also a motto, which is much simpler and has a kind of minor sound to that. And that's actually a motto that spells the words G-A, B-flat, E, or Gabe. The light that burns twice as bright burns half as long. Burns twice as bright, burns half as long. Next piece, Border Crossings at Sunset, was also developed from a poem, but this time it actually got its inspiration from a poetic vision of the person who commissioned it, Brenda Hutchinson. Ms. Hutchinson is a composer who's very interested in sound and sunsets and twilights and different lengths of time during the year. And so she wanted to commission pieces from several composer friends having to do with the solstice and time in December. So I decided to choose a date in December when I would be playing flute and improvising as the sun was setting. And I thought it would be particularly interesting not to deal with the actual sunset itself, but a kind of very subtle period between sunset and twilight, which would make a kind of border in terms of the light. And so in order to prepare for my improvisation, of course, I decided I would write a poem about what I was going to do and then record the music when we had that particular day that I had chosen to witness the sunset moving into twilight. The space between sunset and twilight, a moment of light lost, a border. Crossing to get away, crossing to get through, crossing to get over, crossing to seek, seeking to cross borders, crossing borders to seek lost light. Of light loss. Crossing to get away, crossing to get through, crossing to get over, to cross. Loss line. The next piece was developed from a movement piece, which had been the result of a two-day workshop that I took in dance and movement in Chicago. And all the people taking the workshop were non-professionals. Most of us had never danced on a stage before. And for the second day, we were asked to bring in a text that would serve as a source for dancing. And we had our little group of about 5 or 6 people, and I brought in a text by William Burroughs, which I'm going to be performing for you soon. And we decided that a text like Motel Loneliness should be interesting for a group to perform. So the actual line that we set was Motel Loneliness moans like foghorns over still oily waters. And we decided we would pretend that we were entering the doorway of a really cheap motel that had neon lights that clicked on and off. And so we made clicking sounds and kind of danced into the motel. And then the idea was then we would, not instead of having a party, because it was a piece about loneliness, we would start kind of curling in on ourselves and rolling down onto the floor. So we had all of us rolling on the floor, and then we decided we had to leave and get across the still oily waters. So we pretended that we were in a boat, and we paddled the boat out of the motel across the still oily waters. And this image really stayed with me. And because of that, then I decided I wanted to write a flute piece that used the text. Now, my piece is not totally reminiscent of our story, but it has a lot of other things that have to do with the motel and loneliness, and also foghorns. There's a theme of foghorns that you'll hear in the beginning. So this is the text by William Burroughs. It's from an extended short story called Word that it disappeared for a while, and Allen Ginsberg discovered it in papers that Burroughs was going to be giving to Columbia University. And so it was out of commission or out of function for a while, and then reappeared. The word, gentle reader, will flay you down to the laughing bones, and the author will do a striptease with his own intestines. Let it be. The word is divided into units, which be all in one piece and should be so taken. But the pieces can be had in any order, being tied up, back and forth, in and out, fore and aft, like an interesting sex arrangement. This book spill off the page in all directions, kaleidoscope of vistas, medleys of tunes and straight noises, screams of pain and pathos, and screams plain pathic, sigh of orgasm, heroin silent as the dawn in thirsty cells. Motel, motel, motel loneliness moans like foghorns over still oily waters. Lonely, lonely. Dolce Pureté is, again, another piece that I pulled out of a larger piece for flute, with flute voice and percussion, commissioned by a student of mine, Mirne Shim, who's a flutist in the Bay Area around San Francisco. This piece employs a lot of percussion, and for the flutist, I just felt it was important to have some percussion at least, so that's why we have this here. And the piece is referring actually to noise. The source of it, and Dolce and Pureté, comes from the Futurist Manifesto by Luigi Russolo, who was an inventor and did invent some musical instruments. They sound kind of like machines, but his idea was that the previous music, especially of the 19th century, was very concerned with beauty, and that was no longer the case at the turn of the century. The Futurist Manifesto was written in 1913 when the futurists were concerned with machines. They were also concerned, some of them were concerned with things a lot worse like that, a lot of military, but Russolo was really thinking more about music, and that the music of the present should no longer be the music of the orchestra that was trying for beauty, but rather music that was reflecting the surroundings. And so he thought that noise was a primary element that should be explored in any future musical pieces. A composer who also was very interested in this and still reacted in much more of what we understand as a musical fashion is Edgar Varese. And so I thought in writing the piece, I wanted to pay homage to both composers and use some of the words of Russolo and make a small poem from them, and also have some quotes of material by Varese. Flutists throughout the world know Density 21.5, which was Varese's solo flute piece, has extreme ranges, and so I incorporated a little bit of that in there as a quote, but also his percussion piece for 31 percussion instruments, written, I think also in 1931, called Ionization. And ionization deals a lot just with percussive sounds. It's not that concerned with tone or melody, but different timbres instead. And so you'll hear bits of ionization in my use of the percussion instruments here. The poem exerts some of what Russolo is talking about. And so the words that he spoke, which were in Italian, I translated into English and German, and had also some Italian and some French. It's a very short poem, but these words are incorporated as text in the piece, and you will hear them as well. Dolce pureté, compliqué, complicata, harsh, raw, noise, sound, l'arte de rumori, l'arte de rumori. Compliqué, complicata, compliqué. Harsh, rau. Noise. Sound. I neglected to do a final translation on that. L'arte dei rumori is the art of noises. So if you didn't get that. The final piece is called Are You Ready? It's a structured improvisation, and I call it a musical sound poem because the sounds of the syllables that I'm making are equally important to the words. The words really are just one particular phrase that I expand and develop into a series of musical and cultural references, and yet at the same time I like to deal with the actual sounds that I'm making just as sounds, juxtaposing them and playing with them. The source of inspiration for this piece was the Ur Sonata by Kurt Schwitters, and the Ur Sonata was written between 1928 and 1930 when Schwitters was involved with the Dada group. And in very typical kind of Dada tradition, Schwitters used letters of the German alphabet to make a poem. But he thought instead of having something that was highly expressive, just to let the words become, or the letters become words by themselves. And so he takes RKT, SKT, Rgütte, Rnzgütte in German, and just juxtaposes them and uses all the letters of the German alphabet in what we would call a sonata. It's in 4 movements, it's fast, slow, fast, fast, and the character of each of the movements sort of fits what traditional sonatas would sound like. So for example, the first movement has Rgütte, Rnzgütte, and the second has kvi, very long, extended sound, which is a play on the vowels. The third movement has a kind of lilting quality to it, and the fourth movement has a little bit more body to that. So this piece has been so inspirational to me, I thought I would like to include it in my own piece. The second piece is Visage by Luciano Berio, which was written in 1961, and it is an electronic piece that he developed at the radio station in Milan. He used as his source both verbal elements and also electronic. And the verbal were in the capable, wonderful, expressive vocal gymnastics of Kathy Barbarian, who was known to work with a lot of the composers in the post-war period. She was also a soprano, very fine singer, and did a lot of new music. But she had a tremendous ability to improvise. And so she improvised a whole series of sounds that Berio then recorded, and the only actual word in the whole piece is the word 4 words, paroli. So I like to include that in my own piece and also have kind of homage to Kathy Barbarian and to try to have my piece have some of the things that were inspired to me. ready? Are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready to rock? Are you ready to rock? Are you ready to roll? Ready to roll? Are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready to rock and roll? Are you ready to rock? Are you ready to roll? Are you ready to rock and roll? Are you ready to rock and roll? Are you ready to rock? Are you ready to roll? Are you ready to rock? Ready to roll? Are you ready? Are you ready to rock? Ready to roll? Ready? Are you ready? Ready? Ready to rock? Ready to roll, ready to rock, 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 ba-ba-da-da, ready to rock, ba-ba-da-da, ready to rock, and roll. Are you ready, ready to rock, to rock, to rock, to get I, and I, but are you ready? Are you ready? Ready to rock, ready to roll, ready to rock and roll, ready, boom, ba, dee, 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 dee. Well, are you ready to rock? Ready to rock, ready to roll, ready to rock, ready to roll, roll. Raqueta, rinseketa, raqueta, rinseketa, raqueta, roll, raqueta, roll, raqueta, roll, parole. Are you ready to rock and roll? Are you ready to rock and roll? You're ready to rock and roll? Dong bong dong banging, I know you know rock, 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 no no rock, 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 roll over the door, 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 Chelsea caca. Rockin', rockin', tweet, 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 rockin', rockin', tweet, 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 oh, rockin', rockin', on the way to road, rock and roll, are you ready to rock and roll? Are you ready to rock and roll? You ready to be, honey, 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 let's rock, 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 roll, 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 the didn't have a bad and do it up, look at it, rolling, rolling, ready to rock and roll. Do 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 do, rolling, rolling, ready to rock and roll. Do 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 do, rolling, rolling, ready to rock and roll. Are you ready to rock and roll? I'm ready to rock. Are you ready to roll? Ready to rock. Ready to roll. I'm ready to rock and roll. Are you ready? 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 Are you ready to rock and roll? Are you ready to rock and roll?
Here's your bouquet of flowers.
My flowers. This is my roadie. He'll be on tomorrow. He's got a speech to make tomorrow.